in the Gospel of Luke in the New Testament. The chapter is going to be 18. Now this morning, our own religious governing bodies continue to warn all of the pastors who preach the gospel, especially those churches that air their messages at various levels. And the reason that they do this is there are certain organizations out there that watch and listen to everything that is said and done within the body of churches everywhere. And what they want to do, one of these organizations wants to put a lock on every church door and a muzzle on the preacher's mouth. One of these organizations is known as the ACLU, or better known as the American Civil Liberties Union. And their ultimate goal and what they're working forward to do today is to abolish as much prayer as they can in any public place. They have already succeeded in removing the Ten Commandments from our very halls of justice. And also, in the eyes of our youth today, school teachers will tell you that because of their influence, they have convinced children still underage that they've got rights, and you cannot violate their rights. They have the right to interpret. And I want you to understand the word that's used in this description is T-E-A-S-E, tease out, which simply means that they can mock any kind of governing order from any level, whether it's in school or whether it's from the government. The very evidence put before them, they refuse to accept. Now I want to go on to give you some evidence. Whenever you start to ridicule the truth, here's what happens. Let me give you an example. How can something such as the Holy Bible, that's been taught to all of us for thousands of years, it's taught to you and I that it's correct, it is the guide. It's often been told me, Bible is the best information before you leave Earth. It's taught to be correct. It's a standard of successful living. How can all of this become so offensive to those people, are you listening, that contend that it violates their rights? Now there's a thing called FYI, and the kids tell me that's for your information, big boy. The Bible also teaches you something called ACLU. It teaches you that you are accountable for what you do. You need to be committed. You need to have leadership on your part. You have to become the motion that goes forward in leadership, and there has to be unification. But folks, let me tell you right now, above and beyond anything, there can be no gray areas in your religious life. Now an encounter is about to take place here regarding a gray area. And this story is so familiar to you that you really miss a lot of what's being presented. Let me help try to bring some clarification here this morning. Jesus knows that this man is coming. Okay? Are you with me? He also knows that this young ruler, now let's clarify something. A rich young ruler. This is a man about town. He's a very prominent, high-powered individual. He may be young, but he's already proven what stuff he's made out of. He's a rich young ruler. But this man is struggling, now watch the words, with a religious conviction. Did that sink in? Now let me give you a fact. No matter who you are, I want you to understand when you are in total control of what you have, what's yours, you will assure yourself. Are you with me at this point? You're going to assure yourself that you're in absolute teetotal control and nobody can touch what's mine. That's the attitude. Now, why have I said this? Because I want you to understand, beyond any shadow of a doubt, the rich young ruler, because you're so familiar with the story that you oftentimes miss. What's the old saying? If you want to hide something from somebody, hide it where? In plain sight. Now watch this. There's nothing involved here with this rich young ruler at this moment about any of his tangible withholdings. That doesn't even play into this scenario here. This is a what? Religious gray area in the man's mind. Think about this. I've always gone to church. You remember the story. This is what he's basically saying. I've always gone to church. I never missed a service. I've conformed to all of the Jewish ceremonies. Everything outlined for us Jews, I've done. I've never missed an opportunity to do the commandments that God left throughout Deuteronomy and other chapters within the Mosaic Law. All the requirements I, brother, have satisfied. I've done everything that the priest has instructed me to do. From a child, I've done all of these things. Do you understand what he's just said? Well, what could possibly be troubling the man? If there's any gray areas in your Christian life, then you need to do exactly what this rich young ruler's done. If you've got a gray area in your convictions and religious beliefs, you need to examine yourself and then find out what it is. What do you think this young man's doing? He's seeking clarity. Any gray areas in your religious affiliation with the Lord Jesus Christ? Now, the man, as we just got through saying, is assured of his wealth. Why? Because he does what? He has control of it. Nobody's going to take that away from him. And it's not a problem yet. Did you understand? Are you with me at this point? It's not a problem yet. Why? Because he's got a religious conviction and it's a gray area to him, and he just simply, in other words, to put it simply, this young man is saying, as far as Abraham goes, I'm guaranteed heaven, right? If you're in the family of Abraham, you got it made. Just give your sacrifices and you're going to be there. But there's a problem. Here's the second problem. He just feels that heaven, he doesn't have a lock on heaven. And you got to ask yourself, why is he thinking this? So what's the one thing that the man really needs? He needs clarity. He needs to protect his investments. How do you think he got where he is in the world today? By being stupid? The rich man's not a fool. Any investment that you make, you have to protect. It's got to be protected. Now I want you to remember, what did he say? From a child, I've done all of this stuff, all these requirements. I've followed all of the rules. But here's the problem. This Jesus fella, who has now come into the community, is preaching an entirely new gospel. He is preaching a dramatic, new, changing truth. And I'm of the family of Abraham. You see his confusion? Here's his gray area. I need to understand what it's going to take to secure a lock on heaven. Got any doubts in your mind this morning? Are there any gray areas there? The young man is simply saying, I want a guarantee. Who's right? Abraham or this dynamic new man who calls himself Jesus and is doing all of these miracles? Do you understand what he is saying? Look, you don't have to worry about sacrifices anymore. I am your sacrifice. You don't have to go to the priest anymore. I am your high priest. All you need is me. What powerful statement. Are there any gray areas in your life? Anything you don't understand about the salvation experience? Now, intellectual knowledge, you hear me say this all the time. Intellectual knowledge, everybody's got intellectual knowledge. Everybody knows about God. But intellectual knowledge is not saving knowledge, because without an experience with Jesus Christ, without a time that you know you've surrendered your life, that you are acknowledging what He did on the cross, His shed blood for the remission of your sins, until you acknowledge that and you know that Jesus Christ has been invited into your life and He has accepted what you've asked Him to do. Is there a gray area in your life? Now, following the church family. Anybody in here? What did that young man say? I've been doing what? All of my life I've obeyed the rules. Tradition, tradition, tradition. I was born and reared in the church. I attended every Sunday. My family, listen, do you know why you're Baptist? Do you know why you're Methodist? Do you know why you're Presbyterian? Is there a gray area anywhere? It is often said that whatever traditional church that you are put into, that's where you will always what? That's where you'll always stay. Is there any gray areas? Following your church family traditions is not the point. Am I saved is the point. Now, Jesus responded to this rich young man, and Jesus knows that he has great wealth. And he said to him, and you've got to picture this. You've got to put yourself there. He's come, if you want the truth, you go to the source. Is that not right? If you have the ability and the potential, and you want the answer to the question, and you have access to the man, he has access to Jesus. He knows exactly where he is. He's a powerful and wealthy man. And so he's come directly to Jesus. I want to hear from the source. This is my problem. And Jesus looks at him before he can even say anything, and he says, hey, my brother, you need to give your fortune away, everything. Follow me. You want me to do what? You want me to give away what my brilliance, my education, and my knowledge has allowed me to acquire and obtain great riches? You want me to give it away to worthless people who won't work or do anything? Pay attention now. Watch what happens. See, when you're in control, brother, you are the one who's doing the controlling. Well, watch what happens here. He never heard the latter part of the statement that Jesus made. He was so focused on his money. So I want to examine for just a second. This is a long introduction and a short ending. It's called a 1-2 punch. We've got to look at what was asked, the question and the offer, as well as the response. Now, some people here continue today and down through history to say that Jesus was really extreme here. He was harsh because the ruler was a good man. We all are good people. And a fellow simply, all he came to do, this good man, he just simply wanted to hear Jesus resolve his question, because you are the Messiah. You're the one that they've been waiting for. You're the one they teach us about. You're the only one that's going to be able to provide the right answer that regarding this spiritual necessity and need that I want. But you don't have to destroy the fruits of my labor. You see where he is? Have you ever considered that? Jesus had just destroyed the fruits of his labor. Now, is there a gray area? Does that mean that rich people can't go to heaven? This is unfair and it's unacceptable. Now, Jesus knew